All right. Welcome back to Love in the Wild, the podcast where we explore love, heartbreak, and the messy journey in between. I'm Katelyn Ansari, your host, and today we are talking about one of the most powerful tools for healing after a breakup, which is going no contact. And I know we all know that we should be doing it, yet why is it one of the hardest things we ever do? So I am joined by Cole, a breakup and relationship coach specializing in breakup recovery, dating advice, and relationship coaching. After a divorce at 23 and another breakup soon after, he began sharing his journey on social media, growing to over 750,000 followers across Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and more. So grab your headphones and your journal because you're going to want to dive into the 7 thoughts everyone has after a breakup but doesn't talk about. You don't want to miss this episode full of necessary post-breakup growth. So let's get into it. Hi, Cole. Welcome to Love in the Wild.
Hey, thank you. Super happy to be here.
Yeah. So tell me, I want to know how you grew your page to 750,000 followers across social and how you became a relationship and breakup coach.
Yeah. So we were talking a little bit about it beforehand, but it started with me going through things and just messing up in the worst ways I could. I got married super young. I was 20, and I kind of just, I didn't really have very much relationship experience before then. So we were just kind of figuring it out as we went, and ended up getting divorced after 2.5 years. And it was really, really hard. So after that, I decided that I was just going to, instead of learning and the things we're going to talk about today, I just jumped into another relationship, which we can talk about rebounds maybe there too. But I jumped into another one, and I thought it would be okay. All the pain really did go away for the first 6 months of that, because I was just really, really excited about the new relationship. But because I didn't do anything, I didn't learn any of the things we're going to talk about today, I ended up getting left there too. So when I started making videos, I was pretty much just saying things that I wish someone would tell me. I would literally imagine myself or someone like me and talk to my phone as if I was talking to that person about all the things that I was worried about at the time. And the reason I was doing it was because I was applying for medical school at that time, and I really wanted to find some sort of thing that would make passive income. I was watching Gary Vee and a lot of the YouTube guys on how to make content. And he told me, make 3 TikTok videos every single day. And I was like, okay, Gary Vee. So I did. And I just started every single day in my truck. I would just, in between appointments I had for work, I would make 3 videos every single day, things that I wish I would hear. And so by the time I was 6 months into it, I had whatever 3 times, however many days are in 6 months videos. And that got me to 100,000 followers. And then it just kind of continued from there. So it was about 3 years ago.
That, as someone who's in the social space, that is super impressive. And I think
Thanks.
we have a very similar, maybe relationship trajectory, because I got divorced in 2023, had a rebound as well, had this anxiously attached, attachment to this person where I really lost my own self-worth. I felt so attached to this person. And similar to what you were saying, at one point it was the straw that broke the camel's back. I had found out he was dating other girls in the Are You Dating the Same Guy group. And he would lie to me and he'd be like, we're exclusive, we're together. And then he would be like, I only went out to get drinks and lunch with 3 girls. Why is it such a big deal? And I was like, what is dating like? This can't actually be it.
Yeah.
And at one point, it was the last straw. He didn't even lie about the relationship. He just did this little lie. And I remember I was like, my future husband would never do this. And at that point, I regained just enough of my own self-worth where I was like, I'm done. I have to pull myself out of this loop and I have to go no contact. I'm seeing it on social media. I don't really know what this is, but I'm going to go no contact with this person and maybe I'll heal. So I want to know what do you think that no contact is outside of, the obvious? And how does it relate back to self-worth?
Yeah. So I first discovered it when I was in the moment that a lot of people are in after they get left of just, I need to get my ex-girlfriend back. That was all I wanted to do right at the beginning. And I dove super deep into the rabbit hole of all the YouTube guys that just make these 15 to 30 minute videos talking about how if you go no contact, then they're going to miss you and they're going to come crawling back and you can guarantee it if you do this. And I was like, yes, awesome. This is what I need. So that's why I did it at the beginning. And a lot of people kind of need that, I think, to get started because like when you're super super anxious and that's all you want, you can't really even think of yourself or your self-worth. But that's what's really magic about it is they've actually done studies and looked at the brain images of people going through heartbreak and then people going through like cocaine withdrawal and addiction, and it lights up the exact same areas of the brain. So it's not like an easy thing to do, but it's the same concept. Like if you want to quit a really hard addiction, you need to be away from the substance until you can regain your agency and regain control. And that's the exact same thing that happens with no contact. So when I work with people, generally at the beginning, it's like, okay, let's go no contact. This is going to maximize the chance they'll come back, which I do believe is true too, as more of a side effect of it. But also, this is going to clear your head so that you're going to be able to tell, do you actually want this person? Do you want this relationship? Who are you again? What do you like to do outside of the relationship? And that's what tends to happen is usually it takes like a month or two. But if people actually do it, and I guess I'll define no contact here too, not talking to the person is the basic obvious part in all ways. Like if you're trying to find a way around that, which is common to do, like it counts as sending memes on Instagram, it counts as watching stories, it counts as calling, texting, being with them, all that stuff. But in addition, it's better to think of it like detoxing from the person, creating yourself a window of peace outside of the relationship. So it also includes putting pictures away or things they've given you in a box somewhere, or not going to your favorite restaurant that's going to bring up all these memories, giving yourself like a little space and time that you can just not be triggered by all the things tends to be a good way to start this process.
I think saying that there's a lot of power in that, where like if it is a restaurant, you know yourself well enough, or it's a park, or it's, wherever it might be, to say, I'm not ready for this right now. Like knowing your own triggers and saying, I can't do this right now because I still need that space.
Yeah. And you can later. Like that's actually, it is something that's part of the healing process later is you want to go and have fun memories in those places again and reclaim them for yourself. Like maybe you go with your best friend to that restaurant later and you can rewrite some of those memories that it's not just, I can never go to McDonald's now ever again. That'd be sad. So you do try to reclaim them. But yeah, at the beginning, when you're like fresh and all you can do is think about them and your mind's making up all these hypotheticals and you can't eat and nothing seems to have meaning, you try to avoid those places.
Yeah. And I will say, as someone who's guilty of it, you have to stop stalking them on social media as well. Like you have to purge yourself from just any sort of remembrance of them.
Yeah, so after my divorce, my ex-wife wasn't really on social media at all. So she kind of made it easy on me, but we had this credit card app that was shared. And I remember I could see her transactions, then I'd imagine what she was doing. Like I saw she'd get cookies and I'd be like, yes, she's probably sad about me eating cookies or something. And I probably wasn't even true, but I would check that thing probably every 15 minutes for like a week until I finally deleted it. Because it feels like you want to maintain that connection. And it also feels like you're actually making progress, which is the weird part. One thing that I think her name's Dr. O'Connor. It's recent study done on grief. She looked at the brain of people going through heartbreak, but also death, and found that it's not actually a low motivation time. It's extremely high motivation. It was similar to if someone hadn't eaten in a really long time and then you put food in front of them, like what they do to get it. So we have a crazy high amount of motivation to chase down people and look at their social media and doing all that stuff. And it feels like we're making progress, but we aren't. We're just kind of using that energy and spinning in circles. So yeah, I totally agree on the social media thing. That's a really hard one, but there are things people can do to stop.
It is. I mean, because there's Venmo, there's credit card apps,
Venmo's
there's
a funny one. Yeah, Venmo's super common.
much you can stalk, and you're like, I have to get out of this loop. And sometimes breakups are so bad that you're like, I have to actually like physically pull myself out of it and say, girl, what are you doing? One of the most cathartic things for me, and I don't know if this is right or well, or I'm very unhinged, I don't know. But once I got to a point where, I had items from this breakup where they really meant something to me and they did remind me. And I was like, oh, I'm going to hold on to them because they have sentimental value. And like, when was it? a nice necklace. And I was like, if we do end up, our paths reconnecting or whatever, I don't want any memory of this past. And that
Mm.
was my mindset at the time, to even just get myself to go throw these items away. So I was like, I
Wow.
don't want the past repeating itself. I can still have love for this person and empathize for the traumas they had that made them, or like that caused those actions. And,
Yeah.
I can still really empathize with that, but I want no memory of the past. And so at that point, I just like
That's a strong
went,
thing to do.
yes, I went laser focused, and I was like, I'm throwing the nice necklace away. I'm throwing all the photos away. If we do end up making it back together, we'll make new memories, and the past is in the past. And we didn't get back together,
Yeah.
and there's no desire to ever get back together because my self worth is way higher than what it was when I knew him. But it was what I needed at the time to
I
just
think
throw it away.
one thing you're doing there that's interesting is a lot of people don't really have empathy for themselves in the hard part of it, which you did. So when you were throwing stuff away, you were saying, okay, even if our paths do cross again, because it was hard for you to throw stuff away because probably some part of you wanted that. But you didn't say like, shut up this part of Katelyn, like just be tough and throw it all away. You soothed that part of yourself and said, this is gonna be okay. Like we'll still accomplish that if it happens. But this is what we're going to do to take care of us now so that regardless of what he chooses or changes, then we can still be okay. And that's something that I think can really speed up the process for people, is if they are on their own sides for every part of themselves, which is usually people are pretty like broken in half. A lot of times their brain is like, let's move on. Let's not do this anymore. And then their heart is like, I just need this person more than anything. So they usually just are mean to themselves or shame themselves or be like, it's been 4 months. Why do you still feel this bad? Or he cheated on you. Why do you still feel this bad? It doesn't work though. It slows you down. So what you did was awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, in the very beginning, you were saying that you at first you talked to other people as if someone else was talking to you. And that's
Yeah.
really how I felt. I was like, because my best friend went through it with me, a couple of my best friends did. And they were like, what are you doing? And so
Yeah.
in my mind, I was like, what is the narrative they would tell me if this actually happened? And I was like, I'm just going to talk to myself in a way that my future self will say, girl, knock it off. But I did, that brings me to my next question. Like, are there any psychological patterns or just habits you see in people who bounce back quicker versus those who don't?
Yeah. Yeah. So I have this analogy that I share in a good amount of podcasts is if you imagine three friends trying to cross a river, it's called the river of grief. The first one goes and he just dives right in the river and tries to swim. And the current's too strong. He gets washed away and drowns. Second friend sees that and is like, I'm not doing that. I'm going to sit on the side and just wait for it to dry up. So he sits down, throws rocks in there, and then eventually the river overflows. It rains too hard one day and he drowns too. So the third friend, he sees those two, decides to grab some walking sticks, takes one step in at a time, and maybe the current gets really strong. So he like waits, and then when he can, he takes another step and another step until he's finally across. So that's the three ways I see people deal with this. The first is people just jump right in and do nothing else. So these are the people that just sit in their bed and get really into watching videos like mine and other ones and just think about the breakup all the time. And this probably includes stalking. This includes learning everything about attachment styles in the entire universe until you're like a bona fide psychologist without a degree. This includes looking through old text messages, hypotheticalizing about what, if that's even a word, about what you should have done. And those people just end up like their lives outside of the breakup fall apart. And then they just end up really depressed. So that's number one. Number two is worse than number one. They usually end up not as happy as number one even, is the ones that pretend like it never happened. Like that's what I was doing. So they either jump into a new relationship immediately, or they say, I'm going to get really into work, or they learn how to play the piano super, super well, but that's all they do. Or they just hang out in the gym and that's all they do. And they abandon that part of themselves that feels, like we talked about a second ago.
Mm.
What ends up happening there is it does overflow. So with me, I was in that relationship for 6 to 8 months before I felt anything wrong. Everything was awesome. But because I literally did not grieve my wife leaving. Like it was just like, I was just pretended it didn't happen. I'll just replace her and then still get a dog and a house and go to medical school and everything the same. So
Yeah.
you try to do that, but eventually your brain catches up and everything you're trying to shut down shows up in other ways. And you end up sabotaging and destroying the next relationship you're in. So that's number two. Friend number three does give himself time to feel it when he's like thinking about the breakup, or when he sees a text or something. You can cry, you can sit there, you can really feel it. You can feel sorry for yourself, like that's okay. But you also, when it becomes too much, you have other things that you can do. So have things that you're looking forward to, or have people that you're helping, or have hobbies that you're trying to get good at, or a promotion you're trying to get at work. Like you feel what happened in the past, but you're actively working to build a future that's worth hoping for in the present too. So that's the one that tends to actually work. The first two are really popular though.
Yeah. And I think we both had similar rebound relationships. And it was like I needed the steps, almost like I would say someone who's recovering from addiction. It's like
Yeah.
it's daily thing where you're like, no, you're not texting him today. You're going to go. I love pampering myself. So I'm like, you're going to get a massage. You're going to go get your nails done. Like, wait until this feeling passes and then get back to your day to day. Either
Yeah.
you feel it, sit in it for a second, and then you're like, okay, girl, get back up. We're moving on. And it started as like on an hourly basis. It started where I was like, I'm not going to stalk his social media. And then it turned into a day. And then it was like, okay, I've gotten through a month. And then, because unfortunately, this one took me a really long time to get over because I think I did the two at first.
Yeah.
And then I just got to a point where, like, I just slowly, by little, build these little pebbles of self confidence and self worth and look back. And I'm like, why would you have ever settled for something like that? And seeing who I am now is like, I love that I had to go through that. And I'm glad that I had the process because that type of thing will never, ever happen again.
That's cool. I like what you said about the pebbles of self-confidence. One way that I like to think of it is you can't move on by staying the same way you were. It's not possible. You can't remain in neutral and then get better. I like to break it down into, if your life is built into categories. With my clients, I do family relationships, friend relationships, religion/spirituality, like whatever you believe in, hobbies, work, and then health or self-care, like your massages and nails would go in that one. And then you've also got a romantic category that obviously was way better then than it is now, right after you got broken up with. It's probably like I don't know, like a 5 to 10 out of 10 over here, and now like a 0 because there's no one around. So if you expect that you're going to be happy with this life that is exactly the same, but now that romantic category is a 0, you're not. Your brain is going to want to stick into the like better fantasy of the past than this present that you're not building. It's not as much of a shiny object. It's not something your brain would want to be in. So if you expect to move on, you have to build a better self and a better life that's worth holding on to, or you can't expect your brain to let go of the past. Kind of like what you said with the part of yourself that like wanted things to work out when you want to throw away the necklace. That's the part you have to almost convince, okay, we can let go of the past because we have something to hold on to. It's going to be beautiful. Look what I'm building for you. But if you don't build anything, then that part's not going to want to do that. It's going to be like, no, look at this shiny, amazing guy that I had in the past. You're not providing me with anything new or better. So you have to build that.
Just exercise just clicked in my brain, but it's so true because I've I put a lot of weight into relationships. I would say up until this last year when I really started feeling like I was healing. And I wasn't pouring into my friendships. I wasn't pouring into my faith. I wasn't pouring like even into myself. There was this is so embarrassing because I was dating this guy and he was complaining about his house being dirty.
Okay.
And for reference, I have 2 kids. He was a single guy, didn't have
Yeah.
any kids, and I was like, "Well, I'm gonna surprise him with a housekeeper." And one of my girlfriends was like, "Are you out of your mind? Like, go get
Like
yourself a ma—"
you're gonna pay a housekeeper to go over there? Okay.
And, the same person who was kind of giving the same, like, bad actions towards me, she was like, go get your nails done instead. Like, please use that same amount of money and go invest back into yourself. And, I say that because if you really do map out all of these buckets that you're talking about, like your family, your friends, your religion, and like you, or your faith, where do they stand? Like, we have to juggle all of these, and it's kind of like plates spinning on a
Yeah.
rod. We're like, okay, one's going to fall. Which one's going to fall and which one's going to stand up? And how's the health of all of these categories? Because if you're just pouring it into one person, like you said, your brain's never going to let go of that.
Yeah. It doesn't work for two reasons. That's like the classic anxious attachment style thing to do is throw away everything else in my life, just focus on this one person, pour all of my energy into them, which is hard because it is a noble thing. Like you being thoughtful and thinking of a housekeeper, like isolated, not if we don't take into account that you were abandoning yourself, that's a cool thing to do. So it can be tricky and we can be like, oh, am I not allowed to do good things anymore? And that's not true either. You can be awesome still. But with anxious attachment, if you imagine I'm holding a book, and if you're watching the video, I'm not, I'm holding my hand, but imagine I'm holding a book and I've got my finger under it and I'm balancing it just on one point. This is what anxiously attached people build their lives on. And the point is their relationship. And if the relationship is okay and stable, they feel awesome. But if it's not, if it begins to wobble or their partner is stressed at work or becoming distant for whatever reason, all of a sudden their whole life starts to wobble as well. So they just grab on tighter to that one point and try to hold on for dear life so their life doesn't crumble into nothing. And that doesn't work for two reasons. One, it's not very stable. Like your partner is a person, so they're going to struggle by definition because they're a person. So if you just have that one thing, like you're guaranteeing that you're going to feel really unstable. Second thing is it's not fair for your partner. It's really heavy to like carry someone's okayness is a really heavy burden to have to carry. So it causes people to withdraw and not want to be around you as much because it's heavy. It's not as playful as a relationship needs to be. So if you relate to that at all, the solution is building all those buckets we talked about earlier, because then you've got all of these different pillars holding up that book. And when one is kind of wobbly, like if you're not doing as well at work, then you can rely on your relationship more. If your relationship's not as well, you can rely on your friends more. If you have a whole life, you're a lot more stable because you can adjust. It's just that anxiously attached people, I am too, we tend to forget that we need all that. So you have to like do it on purpose. You might have to do it kind of systematically like that, like rate them all out of 10 every month or two to just make sure that you're still maintaining a life.
That's a really good exercise. And I can't say I've ever done it, but it's a really good one that I'm suggesting that everybody on this listening on this podcast does. Just write it down, do monthly check-ins with yourself and see how the health of all of your pillars are doing.
Yeah.
And to that point, you know, what can like people who are listening do to strengthen their boundaries without feeling guilty or anxious? The housekeeper thing was nice, but I had done it outside of my own personal boundaries. So how can you strengthen that in a relationship or in a breakup?
It's going to feel really unnatural. So you're asking people to build muscles that are atrophied and weak. So it's not going to feel the best. Like if you're really used to being on this one pillar of the relationship all the time, and then you're trying to build friendships and stuff, it's like you're really, really good at baseball and now you've got to go play basketball and you're not good at it. So it's going to feel really awkward and you're going to like miss shots. And I don't know if basketball is the best analogy, but like it's not going to come as natural. You're going to feel awkward. And that's part of the growth. And I would assume your partner is probably going to like it. Like if you relate to that and you feel like you put everything on your partner, it's probably heavy for them. And if not, like if that's how they are too, then you can do it together. You could talk about this with your partner and be like, let's both build these lives so that we're not as codependent and super reliant to the point where we don't do anything else. Like that's how a lot of couples became during COVID is they just both worked remote and couldn't go see anybody and just when they weren't on their computers, talk to each other. So I have a lot of clients like that. So if you feel like it's really hard, like it's either you can do it with your partner and then you'll both be better, or your partner probably wants you to do it and it'll be more stable if you do it. So I don't really think there's much of a danger in reality. I think it just feels like there is because it's not the normal pattern that you're used to doing.
That makes sense. And I, do a lot of reflecting on relationships. And I think that there's three sides to every story: his side, her side, and the truth. And the way that you perceive it is all different types of ways. And I definitely did that in this same relationship. I almost relied on him for my happiness. And on the flip side, I had a relationship where that person relied on me for their happiness. And I was like, whoa, okay. I figured out what I had done wrong in the relationship. And it really is. Relationships, I feel like, are a marathon, not a sprint. And slowly you start combining lives and you slowly start combining activities. But in order to have enjoyable conversations when you guys get home and see each other and be happy, or you want to date or something, you have to have external things to talk about. Similar to COVID, where it's like, well, what'd you do today? Well, you saw everything I did today,
Yeah.
and what else are we going to talk about? So I feel like 9 times out of 10, when you have nothing else to talk about, you're either going to sit in silence or you're going to fight or you're going to,
Yeah. Yeah.
not enjoy each other.
That's a really good point. It's the same thing we talked about earlier with being neutral. Whether it's building your relationship with yourself after a breakup or building within a relationship, you can't just rely on the past. You have to continuously be building the future. That's one thing that's been harder for me and my wife as we've had a baby is we have a daughter that is 16 months old, I think. She's born in July. So
Okay.
before we were extremely, extremely spontaneous. Like the first year we were married, I think we went on like 7 trips just all over. And because I had this job that I would just take it was a lot less busy back then. I took like 3 calls a day from random people who wanted help on their breakups. We'd only do like one-off calls. I work longer term with people now, but we would go all over. I had a Harley and we'd just go on Harley rides in this canyon near where we live. And it was just awesome. It was super fun. And then all of a sudden we have a baby, which by the way, I would never trade ever. Like it's the best thing in the universe, but
It
it's
is the
way
best thing.
different because you can't be as spontaneous. Like the dynamic we built together didn't work anymore because you can't put a baby on a Harley. That'd be very dangerous. And you can't just like randomly take a baby on a 5-hour road trip because babies need planning and where to sleep and eat and all these things. So we've had to really build a new dynamic in how we do things. And it's been hard, but it's becoming way better because we're willing to build that together instead of just thinking this is how it was, this is what the past was. Like you have to continuously be building.
Yeah. And I look back on failed relationships, and it really is two people. Like, you're going to always have issues, but it's two people willing to constantly be working on it together. And, maybe your wife is 80% of the effort one day and you're 20%, or you guys are 50-50, or whatever it is, but you're constantly like, hey, we're on this same path together. I have empathy for you. I know you're not perfect. We're going to navigate this together. Have seen, in my past relationships, it wasn't two people. It was, two unhealed people not knowing how to navigate and not really willing to work on it together. Like, you
Yeah.
can't do it if only one person's doing it.
Yeah. That is hard. And that's the scary part. Like, and that's a scary part after a breakup too. Cause you're like, I've seen how someone that said they loved me and that I love suddenly can give up like that. So how am I going to trust that other people won't do that? And you can get more comfortable on your own. You can build a more solid foundation in yourself that you trust yourself to be able to handle really scary things. But part of it always is a bet. You can't ever totally erase that. My best example is my dad has a friend who he was married for like, I think 30 years. And then his wife fell down the stairs, hit her head, and totally changed into a different person to the point where she would like take off her clothes and dance on a table at like Denny's. She like really got a bad brain injury.
Oh,
All of a
no.
sudden, like, yeah, their marriage kind of dissolved because of that. Like it was just too hard. And that's
Right.
a crazy example. I guess it's not going to happen to everybody, but I think it illustrates the point that it is always a risk. It's never not going to be a risk. So you can do things to mitigate the risk, like learning about secure attachment, finding people that you can like actually go through different experiences with, experience hard things. The number one predictor of divorce is lack of conflict resolution skills. So make sure you can get through hard things together. But you do need to build a certain amount of differentiation, it's called, or like where
Mhm.
you realize that you are your own person and can handle the world before jumping into a relationship because they always can end. And I kind of like that. Yeah, I believe like I kind of remind myself of that even though I'm married, it always can end, so that
Hmm.
I continually make myself into someone who's worth being married to because and I think that's
Ooh,
kind of cool.
that's a
That
good one.
thanks. So,
That
yeah,
is a really good one.
yeah, so it never goes away. Like there's a risk always, but it becomes more stable when you become more stable in who you are and the other things in your life.
Yeah. And I will say I'm dating now this wonderful guy. And, relationships always bring out the unhealed versions of yourself. It's like you could read a textbook all day long. You can share every Instagram post you want and say you're healed. But the second like the rubber meets the road, you're like, actually, I'm a little unhinged in this area still. And, for us, what really worked is kind of setting those boundaries early on, like those non-negotiable boundaries. And I won't like get too far into them, but it was almost, and for me, I can't speak for him, but it was feeling like if I have 2 options on the table, I either stick with my boundary and potentially lose this person who I really care about, or I get rid of my boundary and I lose myself. And at this point in my healed journey, it was like not even a question. I was like, this person, if they don't respect this boundary, they weren't the person for me because I'm so rooted in the foundation of who I am now that I'm not gonna lose myself again for a relationship.
Yeah. And so you need to find that. Like that was my problem is and I think it's hard. Like that's a hard requirement to say fully define all of your values and boundaries before you get into a relationship. You're not totally going to be able to, but the more you can, the safer you're going to be because that's what gives you the strength to be like that. That's what a lot of people are like, when should I date after a breakup so that I can make sure I don't go through this again? And like my favorite advice, it's from Matthew Hussey, if you've seen him. Have you seen him?
No, I haven't.
He's cool. He talks mainly to women, but he's huge on YouTube and Instagram. But he says you can date again after heartbreak when you're happy enough. And what happy enough means is that you're not going to jump back into the same situation or you're not going to throw away being single for something that's not better than that. So the analogy that I really like for this one is if you get fired and you have savings, then you're going to be able to really pick what kind of job you want. You're going to be able to interview around a ton of different places. Maybe you'll start something yourself. But if you have no savings built up, then you're just going to freak out and take whatever is around. And it's the same exact
Mm,
thing in a relationship. So if you get dumped and you don't like who you are, you don't have a life built up, you don't have friends to rely on, no like social savings, then you'll just jump on the next person who is interested in you, which is
mm.
it happens. And that doesn't mean you're compatible. That doesn't mean you can have conflict together. It doesn't mean you want to end up in the same place. So it's worth building that.
It's
You
just the
said that
right
a lot. Said that a lot
Yeah,
in like a lot of different ways.
it really did. So now I wanna jump into, like, the really juicy thing. I saw this on your Instagram,
Okay.
and you were talking about the 7 common thoughts that everyone has but doesn't really talk about. Can you walk us through them? Because I'm eager to know, and I know my audience is too.
Yeah. So these are just thoughts I've heard a lot of people say, but I've had these too. And the main idea with that post was just that you're not a crazy person if you're having these things, that you're totally normal. And again, there's 2 parts of you. There's the part that really wants the past, and there's the part that realizes things were bad and is looking towards the future. So this post was more to help people soothe that part of themselves rather than cage it up and throw away the key and be terrible. So the first one is I'm really terrified that I'll never find a connection like this again. And that's a huge one is maybe when you look at your breakup, you're like, I know this wasn't actually that good. Like there were a lot of things that were really bad in it, but it's the best I've ever had. I've never had anybody that treated me any better than this. So why should I expect that somebody is going to treat me better in the future? Or maybe it was awesome. Like with my ex-wife, we could talk unlimited amount of times. We could talk forever, all day long and never run out of things to say. And it was great. And then I got broken up or divorced and I was dating and I wasn't able to connect that way with people again. And it freaked me out. I thought that I had lost the best thing I'd ever have. And I was really, really afraid of that until I found Jocelyn and it was better. But that's a big fear that people have. So if you're having that, my favorite way to get through that is to think of your life more as you're a character in a movie and you don't know how it's going to end. So view your life more with curiosity that maybe you're only 20 or 35, even if you're 45. You have so many years in the future and some humility in recognizing I don't know the happiest way my life can end up lets you be curious about it. And if you think of it like a movie, you think like in any rom-com, things always go absolutely horrible before it ends up better. Like everything falls apart. The guy says he never wants to see her again. Like the plane takes off and she misses it. And it's just like terrible. Everything's really bad. And at that point, if you were like, I know everything, you're probably just going to end up hopeless. So having humility and realizing you don't, you have no idea how great your life can be. You have no idea what the happiest path your life can take is, really helped me get through that one. Okay. Second one is going to be, is my ex hurting too? Or am I just doing this by myself? That's a big one.
Yeah.
It's a big one for a couple reasons. Like people think like if they're not hurting as much as me, then the love wasn't real. So I was just a fool and I was tricked. All these years I was so head over heels and they were just not. And then I'm an idiot now. So that's one reason it's hard. And the second one is a lot of people want to win the breakup. They want to feel like I end up with like the better looking person after, I end up more successful and happier, and you go die in a hole and are sad. That's what a lot of people want to say but don't say. So if that's the case, there's some value in realizing that they do hurt. Like I have not seen many breakups where it's truly one-sided and one person hurts and the other person doesn't. Hardly
Mm-mm.
any. So I've talked to 2,000 something people, and then I've had like thousands and thousands comment. So I've seen a lot of different breakups, and I have not talked to someone who's totally no feelings, no sadness. Even if it was terrible, even if they checked out like 6 months ago, usually there's still some shock that you don't see the person anymore. Even if they
Yeah.
really, really hurt you, like it's still hard. So if it's more of a normal breakup where like it just didn't work, it's usually pretty sad on both sides. It's just that if you're only seeing their social media, no one posts themselves crying at night. So you're
Right.
not going to see that.
And everybody
So
processes things differently too.
yeah.
I'm like an inward processor.
Mm.
That's probably why I went cold or like private and just I was like, I just gotta focus on myself. But a lot of people are external. And so it's probably why you see people posting on social like living my best life ever.
For
And you're
sure.
like, are you though?
Yeah. 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 So everyone thinks that. And that's a weird thing that nobody thinks about with breakups is it's actually really lonely to be the dumper, the one who leaves, because you don't get as much support. Like the person who gets left, all your friends like rally around you, at least for a little bit. Usually not as long as is necessary because people don't always realize how hard breakups are. So friends kind of get tired of it after you talk about it for like a couple months. But the
Yeah.
person who left, they don't really get that much support at all because they chose it. Like it's their choice to leave. So if they're missing the person, then people would just be like, "Oh, why'd you leave then? Like, what are you doing? Go back then if you're sad." So those people, they do post themselves really, really happy because they need support. They're not able to get support any other way, which is really sad. Like if you're listening to this and you have a friend that left, they might need some support in that way. Then maybe they do still have feelings, but it's just better for them outside their relationship. That's a lot of people. So yeah, that's another one. I'm trying to remember what I put in that post. The next one is if the relationship ended, then there was never love. There's this weird belief people have that if you love people, then you can just overcome everything. And it's not true at all. Like
Mm-mm.
you can love on both sides, but one person's not emotionally available for the relationship and is just going to sabotage it all because they never worked through stuff with their parents or they got cheated on in the past. That doesn't have anything to do with love. Like they can love you and still freak out and do something terrible. And also like if you have totally different values, like if one of you really wants kids and the other really doesn't, or one of you is Muslim and the other one is LDS or Catholic or something, and they're very into their faith, you can love each other and that doesn't work. So there's tons of reasons you can break up and still have. And
Hmm.
even if it's like a regular breakup where you just broke up because you guys are fighting all the time, it doesn't invalidate all the love before. I think this one's a lot into that past thing I said that they feel like a fool. Like they know that they loved, but the other person didn't, they're thinking. But they
Yeah.
probably did. So yeah, that's another one.
Yeah. And I feel like those are the hardest ones too. And it's like when you're on that path to healing and because I think movies and books and all the things, they like, all you need is love. And it really is true. Like you need more than just love. And so when you do have the love and you realize, okay, I have to walk away from this, or this isn't right for both of us. And you have to walk away and say, whether you're the one getting dumped or you're the person dumping the person, it's almost harder because there wasn't really anything that, people look at you and say, well, why you guys just broke up over this? Like, just have the kid or just move in together or
Yeah.
just convert religions. It's like you guys have love. And so that's always a hard one to break up when you still
Yeah,
have the love.
I like to break it into, I've thought for a long time on what are the three minimum things. I didn't have three at first, but what are the minimum things you need that make a relationship work? And I've narrowed it down to three. And I
I want to
like to
hear
think of it like if you have a car, what are the very minimum things you would need for a car to be a car? This would be a really
it.
crappy car, but it would still work. Is like you need like an engine, you need wheels, and you need fuel. If you're missing anything, it's not a car. You can have an engine with fuel that just like makes noise and sits on the ground, or you can have wheels with pour gas on them. That doesn't work. So you need those three. You can't replace them. You can't have anything else in their place. You need them. So for relationships, it's love. You have to like each other. You have to admire each other. You have to have chemistry. It is, which by the way, I think that with this one, you can build that. So if it fades, you can rebuild it. I love,
Mhm.
and there's a book called 7 Habits of Highly Effective People that talks about love as a verb. I love that definition of love. That if you're falling out of love, I believe it's your responsibility and job to fall back into love. If it's everything else is good, because you
Right.
can. Number two is emotional availability. So love, emotional availability. You need to both be ready to be in a relationship. That's what you're doing. So you have to be ready for that. So if you move in together and all of a sudden you can't handle anything and you're like not like that's beyond your emotional capacity because you're avoidantly attached or something you haven't worked through yet, that's a necessary thing. And then third is similar goals and like direction for the future. So
Mm.
and values. So that's where like religion comes in. For some people, it's politics if they're like super into politics. Kids is a huge one here. Where you want to live can be a huge one. Lifestyle can be a huge one. Like if one person wants to live in New York, the other person wants to be a van lifer. Like those things, three things have to be lined up at a minimum. And the hardest is when people have two of them. Like the most common I see is that they had similar goals for the future and they loved each other, but one person was not ready to be in the relationship. And
Mm.
the person who gets left by that person has such a hard time letting go of it because they think I'm almost there. I'm like 2 steps away from every dream coming true ever. But you can't. Like it's the same thing with the car. You can't have the best engine in the world and the best wheels in the world, but just not have any gas and then just sit in it and just like really, really think about gas. It doesn't work. You need all three.
That's a really good way to put it. And, I will say I'm guilty of almost having a checkbox list of things that I was like, well, these are all the things I need in a relationship. And going through my healing journey, it turned more into, I guess, like personality traits that were more encompassing. So it was like, if, to your point, if someone's emotionally available, they are either willing to compromise or they're willing to lean in on certain things. Like they're, I don't want to say easier to deal with, but they're like more
That can be a
enjoyable,
thing.
you
Yeah.
know?
Some people are easier to deal with than other people.
Yeah, like life conflicts happen because they're gonna happen. And, for the longest time, I was like, well, this person, I relate to all the things you said where you were like, well, if they, meet two of the three things, like I'm almost there. I almost got it. And this might be the best that I'm ever going to get because I have the two. I just don't have the third. And if I just keep holding on, or I don't want to be alone forever. Or, all of those thoughts that you said about what people think of when they break up, I've had those too. So it's really refreshing to hear that, these are three things that you have to have. And you can have the engine on the ground with gasoline on it, but it doesn't make a car.
Yeah.
And so I know we're getting close on time, but I would love for you to share with everybody how they can get in touch with you if they want to work with you. I saw that you also have an ebook. So give us
Yeah, I've
all
got
self
a
promo.
regular book coming out. That's the biggest thing
Oh
is
my gosh, that's huge.
thanks. Yeah, so February 10th, I've got a book called X's and No's coming out. And it's everything I've learned from my story and then the 2,000 people I've worked with. So I've made it like a roadmap to get you from just broken up with and feeling like you're drowning and have no idea what to do at all the way guiding you through getting back together in a healthy way, moving on in a healthy way, forgiving yourself and your ex, building a life that you love, like we talked about today. And then if you want to, how to date again after heartbreak, where you can find secure attachment style on the first couple dates instead of spending another 2 years until you get broken up with. So it's pre-order right now, and you can get it at coachcolezesiger.com/X's and No's. And if you pre-order it, then you get chapter 1 immediately, and then a secret chapter that I'm not releasing anywhere else, and then also a Q&A. that's going to be around launch time.
Awesome. So we should go to your website, which I will put in the show notes at the very end. And then it's also on his Instagram bio, which I will also share everywhere so that everybody can follow, work with Cole, do all the things.
Thank you.
And then I guess before we end, what is one key takeaway that you would like our Love in the Wild listeners to know about breakups as we lead into 2026?
Some are awesome for you. So
Ooh.
with me, like both times, I was extremely in denial, never let go ever. With my ex-wife, what I did was I was so hurt that I just ignored it. And that's what a lot of people do is when your ex gets into a relationship, like you might think they don't care about you. I cared so much, and that's why I did. I was so hurt by that I thought my entire life was going to die unless I just forgot about her as quickly as possible. And then
Mm.
the next one, like I probably spent 5 hours a day researching different tactics to get an ex back for like 4 months, all day on YouTube, trying to get her back. And I
Guilty.
tried to do everything perfect. Um, and I just denied it and denied it and denied it. And one time I remember with the second one, I said a prayer and I was like, please just give me another chance with her. And I felt like a thought in my head as an answer to that prayer, it's not going to work this time. And I did not care. I was like, okay, whatever. Give me like the second place joy then. I'll take my version. This is going to be better than what you think. And it's not. So, like, if this is happening, I like some level of letting go and believing that the future might be better than what your plan is. Mine was way better than what.
I like that. And I hope that everybody knows that breakups suck. They're terrible. And I hope that everyone feels like you're not alone because I've gone through it. Cole's gone through it. The same kind of, I call it like the death spiral where you're just like, nothing's ever going to get better. I don't know what happened. You're sad. You're, feeling all the things that you're not alone. And to Cole's point, some things are definitely worth it. So thank you, Cole, for being on the podcast. And that
Thank
is a
you.
wrap on today's episode of Love in the Wild. Thank you for sharing your insights on no contact, the 7 thoughts we all have after a breakup. And remember that going no contact isn't about punishment. It's about protecting your heart, reclaiming your power, and showing up as your best self. So if you love this episode, don't forget to follow Cole. Don't forget to subscribe, and share it with someone who might need a little bit of love and clarity today, too. And as always, keep exploring, keep healing, and keep thriving out here in the wild.